Welcome. It's great to see some people are joining live for today's Bhagavad Gita Sadhana. Sadhana being a long-term pursuit or practice that's done continuously and with faith that it is having some benefit. I'm seeing some benefits of this practice, and I hope you are too, whether you just started or whether you've been with me for a while. Today's practice is dedicated to Vera, and today's topic builds off the previous ones. The last couple days, there's been some talk about memory and forgetting. It was all sparked by a question someone wrote in about, we know these things, these great truths. We may go to services weekly or study them daily, and yet we forget. The transience of memory. And this is especially important because we are now in chapter 8 of the Gita, which talks a lot about death. And this is the perfect time of year when I'm recording this to contemplate death. I don't know if you can quite see it on the camera. Let me move this a little. I don't think the resolution is quite good enough with this camera. So I'll just have to tell you. The leaves here are starting to turn colors, and it's starting to get into, the 50s at night. So that's Fahrenheit, not Celsius. Oh my gosh. So Celsius, that would be below 15 or so degrees in the night, which means that summer is coming to an end. And for many of us, symbolically or practically, summer is a time of life, of excitement, of energy. And then with fall, in many climates, things start to apparently die. Really, they're just sleeping, many of them, like the great trees behind me. The oak tree, he slumbers, and then he wakes up again in spring. Many of us have this idea that death is final. And that's because of our experience with loved ones who pass. They seem to be gone from our lives forever. But are they? Even if they're not here in the body, they are here with us. And that's where our topic of memory comes in today. They live in our memory. Every person that's touched our lives in any way lives on in our memory. And I'm contemplating this today in terms of something that Krishna says to Arjuna in the Gita way back in chapter 1, but now, since he's talking about death, becomes even more relevant, which is, Arjuna, how do you want people to think of you after you're gone? Many of us, midlife or later start to have this, but I think it's good to put more focused attention on it at every stage of life. How do we want people to think of us after we're gone? And the reason I recommend young people do this too is because you never know when you're going to go. Young people do die all the time, even though it seems like that will just happen to somebody else. You could be somebody else. Even older people cling. I think I've shared with you the story of one person who said, well, if I die, and was prompted by the teacher with the question, don't you mean when you die? So we will die. And one of the things that can help us figure out how to live more fully, which Krishna is helping us to do in chapter 8 and the whole Gita, is thinking about how you want to be remembered and who you really want to remember you. Let's bring our minds into balance with a physical balance pose. Balance poses are supposed to help us stop overthinking, because it's really hard to think and be in a balance pose. If you don't believe me, try reciting multiplication tables or from the periodic table of elements in your head or aloud while you're doing a balance pose. Let's see. How tall am I today? Remember, you can do this from a chair or lying down if that's better. Ooh. Switch sides. Wonderful. So even though I can't really show you leaves on the trees at this time yet, it won't be obvious on this camera. Mother Nature happened to drop this for me. So here we go. A sign that here in this hemisphere, fall is indeed coming. Looking back with pleasant memories, hopefully, on the season we just had. Maybe even looking back on our lives. So for today's contemplation, I invite you to consider exactly how you want to be remembered. Let's do that for 5. Welcome back. What is the legacy you want to leave? Oh, I noticed when I said that, I did that big. And thanks again to Mary Montram for pointing out that I do that on the videos. I was unaware. And I realized today why I do that. Because when I start the contemplation, my intellectual mind is busy with, the mental challenge, like today. How do I want to be remembered? And then after a certain point, for me, the intellectual mind lets go. A deeper knowing takes over. And that's when the sigh happens. Yeah. So it's been wonderful spending this time with you, both mentally and more deeply. We'll see what happens next time. We'll keep building off this topic next time, actually. We'll consider the opposite. So until then, I'll keep you in a little suspense.